Hello, everybody. Welcome to the May 2025 edition of Let's Talk. We're going to just let people enter in from the waiting room, the Zoom waiting room, into the actual Zoom event hall. That's what I've been calling it lately, James, the Zoom event hall.
Sounds a lot more lively than it is.
Then, we're this screen that the screens we're all looking at. We'll just give a couple more seconds and then we can officially start. Um, I think a Let's Talk that's going to be one for the books, James, one for the books.
I hope so.
This is going to be a good topic. Um, all right. Oh, wow. People are still coming in. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Please come in. Come take your seats. Find the cold coffee in the corner there. All right. Let's begin. Welcome, everyone, to Let's Talk, a production that we've been doing for many, many years, and a co-production between the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, Vita Community Living Services up in Canada. And this is a production that features in-depth conversations with authors who publish in something called the International Journal for Direct Support Professionals. And we'll talk about that in just a couple seconds. But I'd like to welcome you all. My name is John Raffaele. I'm the Director of Educational Services with the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals. And I get the great privilege and honor every month to talk with authors about topics that are pertinent and relevant and practical for direct support professionals. We know that direct support professionals throughout the United States, throughout North America, oftentimes training and any kind of developmental, educational opportunities for them, they're not abundant. And one thing we've done for many, many years with the International Journal is make a monthly opportunity for direct support professionals to learn about things that are important for them and to them. So that's what we're doing this month. And this month it's really cool and wonderful. We actually, and he'll introduce himself in just a second. We have an NADSP staff member that is the author of this month's International Journal. And wait till you hear this month's chat, because it's about something I think we're all desperate to learn more about. And there it is. You can see it if you can see the screen. The title of this month's article is called Past the Burnout, Reclaiming Mental Wellness in Direct Support Work. And James is going to really cover that nicely in this next hour. The International Journal for Direct Support Professionals has been around over a decade. We have a full archive available of literally every month for the last almost 13 years, if not more at this point. I can't count anymore. A monthly edition is put out, and we have that archive. That archive it can be made available to you. For more information or to get this month's article, all you need to do is reach out to those addresses right there. Why don't you reach out to me, jraffaele at nadsp.org, and I can hook you up with the archive and and certainly this article. I'll give you that at the end of the broadcast as well, so you can reach out to me. As I said, this is a joint venture, and as I said, we've been doing this for many, many years. But what's really important about the International Journal, and it's very specific, it's really the only, what we can say, international publication that's specifically for direct support practice. And this particular topic that James is going to go into, and I'm going to go into it with James, we're going to take a journey. I know in May of 2025, James, you know this as well. If we need anything, if we need assistance with anything, it's with how do we maintain our mental health and our mental wellness? Times are just very difficult, I think, just generally in the world, but certainly in the world of direct support. So I think what James is going to offer us is just something that's what the doctor ordered. James,
Hi.
welcome. Who are you? Tell us about you a little bit. There's a little bit of blurb on you, but I would like, let's hear from you. Who are you?
Yeah, I like to usually I like to start this off by saying I'm a human. My name is James. I the New York State credentialing coordinator for for National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals. But yeah, I identify as a human. I think I've lived many different lives in my short time on Earth so far. And I think all of those lives have given me multiple perspectives and experiences, and I'm grateful for those experiences. And some of them have carried a little bit more weight than others, which has brought me to talk about this specific topic. But personally, I am a pet dad to two beautiful dogs, and I love plants. I have my garden going right now, despite the cold weather and rain. And I'm really passionate about people feeling safe, secure, and capable of finding joy, despite the challenges thrown at you.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, well, James, I already feel at ease and in a place of comfort with you and working with you this over a year now. I mean, I think you've been with us, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you are a very calming presence, whether you know it or not. And I think reading this article, and I'm hoping everybody reaches out to me so they can grab this article. Um, the article gives a sense of we can make it through some tough stuff. And tell me just a little bit about some of your educational background, James. What kind of things have you studied to
Uh,
improve?
so sorry, it's wrong. I started off at SUNY New Paltz in 2015. So I got my bachelor's in sociology with a concentration in human services. So learning how to work with a variety of people, work with everyone, meeting people where they're at a strengths-based perspective. That was really key in my education. Because again, everybody's the best, the biggest expert in their own life.
Mhm.
I went on to then get my Master's of Professional Studies in Social Justice Education, and I just obtained that in 2023. And I've given presentations on a variety of different subjects throughout the years, ranging from my own personal stories, and storytelling to intersectionality and identity, and then also cultural responsiveness trainings on LGBTQ topics. Um, but my passion, my worldly passion is, I think, will always be mental health. I really think that if people have the tools and opportunities, that they'll definitely take care of themselves. And I think sometimes we all could use a reminder to take care of yourself. But sorry for getting a little off topic there, John, but
No. It's important for us to know who you are, because I think who you are informs this subject. And here's the subject, and I love it. When I first read it, I said this is going to be a bestseller. And all kidding aside, I think it's something that direct support professionals particularly face a lot more than I think we want to think, but they do. And I love the name of it, past the burnout. And we're going to talk about that word in a second, but reclaiming mental wellness, even that the sound of that, it's like, wow, okay, I like that. Reclaiming mental wellness and direct support work. So I think that's what we're going to dive into. And I just love that photograph. It's, if those that can't see it, or are listening to this and can't see the image there, it's this beautiful valley with a rainbow. And rainbows are wonderful, they're hopeful, they're obviously symbols for all kinds of wonderful things, right? And I think this article gives us a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. How about that? Isn't that nice, James? So,
that is
James, um, the art help us, for those of it didn't read the article yet. You start off with a really
how
impact.
would I read it?
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
read, yeah.
Yeah, I'll read it. So the scenario that I start off the paper with is Sheila is a 35-year-old single mom working as a direct support professional in a residential home. She just wrapped up her long work week and is off for 2 days. Unlike other jobs, as a direct support professional, Sheila does not have a traditional weekend off. Instead, she is off Mondays and Tuesdays. On her days off, she doesn't get to sleep in because she wakes up to make sure her children get on the school bus safely. She prepares their school lunch using bread and bologna purchased from the dollar store. As she does so, her oldest child complains about eating more bologna. After seeing her children off to school, Sheila makes her way to the doctor's office to address her health concerns. She waited 6 months to make this appointment so she could save money for her copay. The doctor tells her that her stress is beginning to affect her physical health and she needs to practice better self care. Sheila's ears begin to ring as she considers what could be causing her stress: rent, utilities, groceries, kids, work, inefficient sleep, malnourishment, poor social life, no mental health support systems. Sheila is burned out from balancing everything in her life, and her mental health is taking a toll. She wants to take care of her mental health, but it feels beyond her reach and above her financial means.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I, I think that is a description of not only, I think, of many people, right? Many, particularly single moms or single dads or whomever, but direct support professionals. You know, you nailed it. And I mean, talk more about that. I mean, the one word that stuck out, right, is Sheila trying to balance all the
Hmm.
stuff, all the things, and
Right.
it's enough to put anybody to a place of having not good mental health, right? Um,
Right.
and
I mean, also depending on the level of support you provide, you can be helping someone prepare groceries or meal prep, to helping someone bathe, to breaking down a complex diagnosis of something while balancing, right? Like all of the things going on in your personal life that you're expected to not bring to work because you're at work and you have to provide quality care. But to say that those things aren't impacting you subconsciously or just in tiny little things, like maybe you're going to work with a headache every day because of that burnout. So the physical manifestations, the mental weight and burden of everything going on, and still doing the best that you can to support the people that are in front of you, right? It's a lot. It's a juggling act, and not a lot of people see that, right? Like I've read a lot of the badges, right? A lot of the competency badges, and people talk about, being borderline nutritionist without the degree, right? Like having to explain, hey, maybe don't eat this or eat this, but then the trauma there too, right? Supporting people, providing, helping them get what they need, but then knowing that you're going to go home and not have what you need at home. Um, I wish I could say that all of this was made up. It's not, like some of it is from Jen Cohen's studies, things that she shared. Some of it is from my own personal lived experiences, people I've met, people I've encountered. This story is very much the same. I don't have my needs met, but yet I'm expected to take care of myself and show up at work and be the best version of me. It's a lot.
yeah, and James mentions a person by the name of Jen Cohen. Dr. Jen Cohen is a labor economist. I believe that's her background, but she's done a lot of work with us studying and researching direct support professionals, and some of the things that she's discovered and determined that direct support professionals deal with are food insecurities, and certainly, obviously rent, housing insecurities, and so all of this adds up to very stressful times for direct support professionals. Here's the other thing, James. I'm thinking, and we know this, that we don't have necessarily the exact numbers, but we know direct support professionals often, very often, probably the majority of direct support professionals, they'll have to have two, three jobs to cobble together to make ends meet just financially. And it's interesting, James, and I'd like you to speak to this. It's they get other direct support jobs. Isn't that interesting? So they love the work so much that you could probably get a job doing something else, make more money. They won't do that. They'll often get other direct support jobs because that's what they're good at. It just doesn't seem fair, right? That, my gosh, why can't we pay better? Why can't we do something in our system to improve things for DSPs? But talk more about that, like the multi-job aspects.
Well, yeah, a lot of DSPs have multiple jobs, and a lot of them will often get a job in a helping profession at the same time, right? I think that when you're someone who cares and you have a lot of empathy, you want to stay in these positions because they give your life meaning. The issue though, right? And I'm not saying that again, like I don't want any of this to come out as me criticizing another person for who they are or the fact that they don't make enough or being burned out or experiencing fatigue. I'm not blaming anybody. I really just want people to recognize how they're impacted by these things. But I'm sorry, John, I can also get off subject because sometimes my head gets going. But more to what you were saying, like, yeah, having multiple jobs in the same field because you care about the work you're doing. It's meaningful, and even though you're getting burned out from life circumstances, you still care about what you're doing. And money is not everything sometimes, but yes, so it brings us to the burnout, right? So you're having multiple jobs, um, and you're exhausted. And what does burnout feel like, right? Like I think we hear that word a lot. Oh, burnout and fatigue. I was very hesitant to even talk about it myself because it's talked about so much that it's losing its meaning almost, right? Like if I were to ask all of you in the room, right? I mean, not saying that you have to answer, do you have a headache? When did you get a good night's sleep last night? Or were you working three jobs after yesterday? If I were to ask you, oh, maybe you had a Saturday off and maybe you don't have children or what have you, and you're able to sleep in that Saturday, do you feel rested? And if the answer is no, chances are you're burned out, right? You can't recover from burnout within one day off, or even honestly, sometimes a vacation if it's persistent and it's chronic and it's every day. I personally, there were times in my life where I was working 7 days a week. And sometimes you you look for people to help you or not help you, but just to share that load with, right? Just to vent to another human being. And people will meet you with, oh, have you tried this? You should do that. You should do this. You should do this. And there's a lot of should. And it's just, can we just acknowledge that what I'm going through is challenging and I'm burned out? I need community, right? Sorry, I'm getting a little off topic, but
No,
again,
no, keep going, please.
you'll see other things too on the screen. You'll see depression, apathy, drain, minimal social life, anxiety, persistent fatigue, and long recovery. If you're working multiple jobs, do you really have time for a social life? Right? I think that we are often bombarded with all of the things to help us feel better or make us well, but they're often without considering that some people are not living the same way. Some people don't have weekends. Some people don't have evenings. Um, it's complicated, and it's especially complicated for direct support professionals.
And speak to this, James, if you could, because here it is, and we're asking this workforce to do all the things of supporting people, right? Everything from helping people with medication to helping people's their own the people they're supporting their mental health needs, physical needs, helping them go to work and go to school. And what is the saying? The mechanic's car is the last to get fixed, or the cobbler's shoes are the last to get.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm just getting at. What do we do about that? Because it doesn't. It seems like direct support professionals they just keep. They're like the Energizer Bunny. They just keep going and going and going until it gets to this word here, burnout. And it's too
Yeah.
late. I mean, and maybe we're going to talk about this in the future here, but can you prevent burnout, James?
Well, if I were to tell someone, I don't, I think that, I think that's a loaded question, right? I think burnout is manageable if you're not burned out from systemic issues, right? Like if you're burned out from, again, maybe you've been working on a really tough project at work, or maybe there's a transition happening in your life. Maybe your child is getting ready to go to school, or maybe someone's graduating, right? Sometimes you can get burned out from things like that. But if it's systemic and it has to do with consistently low pay, for example, right? And consistent housing insecurity or food insecurity, right? You can't necessarily recover immediately from that. There is no, hey, here's a fix. You're gonna, if you do X, Y, and Z, that's it. All of your issues are gonna go away. That's just not the reality. And I'll definitely be talking about that more. There is a second part to Sheila's scenario that I think also touches on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, back to Sheila for a second. I mean, again, Sheila, our kind of our sample. Um, she she's aware. She's aware, right? That the thread is thin. The thread is thin, and the rope is getting thinner. And my goodness, I'm at the edge. But there's the realities of mental health insurance coverage, right?
Mhm.
Of just the economics, right? But I'm thinking, just you said before, you know, people will offer a lot of shoulds. You should do this. You should do that.
Mhm.
What can you tell direct support professionals who might not have good insurance? Like you said something about community. You know, what can a direct support professional grab onto? What would you
So
recommend?
I recommend that if you find yourself, right, like let's say you find yourself having a headache.
Mm,
I have a headache. I'm supposed to drive the van in an hour or something, right? Take a second. Find someone so you can take a second for yourself. Go
mm,
to the bathroom, put some water on your face, and just take three deep breaths. Check in with your emotions. I think we have become so conditioned to live life robotically, and we
mm,
expect direct support professionals, unfortunately, to be the same way while providing top care, right? I think we need to encourage one another to check in with ourselves more often. Hey, you sounded a little agitated before. Do you need to take a second? Do you want to do some like co-regulating and maybe we do some group deep breaths? Or why don't we introduce some yoga techniques that help to alleviate some stress, right? Like and do those things with the people you're supporting too. Like if you're in a residential setting, you don't have to, take deep breaths alone if you're in a room and you can't. Like say, "Hey, who feels like taking a deep breath with me?" Or who feels like blowing out candles or blowing up balloons depending on the environment you're working in, right? Um I would say just start with a deep breath.
mhm.
Um, eh, Start with a deep breath. Yeah.
It's like you don't need to go to your therapist 3 times a week, to get some relief from this all this stuff that comes from burnout, because that's important. I think.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, you mentioned community
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
but yeah, community too, right? On here I have minimal social life. So I do recognize that sometimes it is hard to establish friends, but find people that you can trust. There are hotlines, there are chat rooms, there's Reddit subgroups, there are places where you can talk to other people who are going through something similar. There are support groups. I used to be a counselor. I used to facilitate support groups, and let me tell you, there are people out there going through very similar things who want to support one another. So find those spaces if you can, and be willing to be a little vulnerable and trust someone.
Mhm, mhm. Do you recommend, and this is something interesting, I just thought of this as you're talking about this, because I think sometimes direct support professionals, they work in teams and they have colleagues. Is it recommended to talk about this stuff with your colleagues, or is that something maybe we should guard against? What do you think about that? Because I
I
think, I think I could go different ways. What do you?
I think always protect HIPAA and confidentiality, of course, right? But and I think it depends on what you're going through, right? So if you're going through compassion fatigue, which is if you go to the next slide, John, I can
There we go.
so if you're experiencing something like compassion fatigue, where you find yourself being very cynical of the people that you support, if you find yourself numb to their needs, or you're experiencing a lack of empathy, but again, you're still passionate about the work, I think in those situations, maybe talk to your supervisor, talk to someone that you can trust, someone that can support you and bring your awareness to the fact of how you're acting or what. Sorry if I'm losing my words, but I think you get the point. If it has to do with that, if it has to do with something that's like personal, or maybe it's family related, again, find a person you can trust, a professional you can trust, a chat room, a friend, someone you can phone, an anonymous platform, again, always protecting confidentiality and HIPAA, but just somewhere, there are these avenues. I know me personally, I really enjoy chat rooms. I enjoy subreddits, able to like kind of read what other people are going through and see what they're doing to help themselves. There's also national organizations. So like let's say you're very private and you don't want to go to a chat room, you don't want to go to another person, you want to make it more you want to do something on your own first, right? That's how you want to get started. There's the Mental Health Association of America. There is NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, I'm sorry, I think they changed their names, but NAMI. So there's other avenues as well. Um, yeah.
And just kind of zooming out a little bit. When we look, when we say mental health, right? Mental health, mental wellness, mental illness. I mean, we have to make sure we understand the differences between those things. Mental illness, obviously, something that could very well be a physical, physiological, biological thing, and all of it is stigmatized, even to this day, even in 2025, right, James? And I think that's where I perhaps sometimes a person like Sheila, in our sample, will feel whether it's embarrassed or a certain level of humility. What do you say? What can you tell? And maybe if there's supervisors that are on this session with us today, how do we help the Sheilas out there? It's okay. You can talk to somebody. How do we help them get over that bridge of the stigma about around mental health and mental wellness?
Don't assume that because someone is coming to you saying, I'm having a hard time as a supervisor, do not assume that they can't do their job.
Mhm.
Someone can be going through these things, and you may say to them, well, you need to take a vacation. Well, I can't afford a vacation right now. So recognizing that some of these things are a little bit more complicated than just taking a break. And also don't assume again that someone can't do their job just because they're experiencing a symptom of a mental health issue. Um, Again, I think sometimes these things are situational and systemically, if people weren't going through what they weren't going through, they wouldn't be having these same conversations, in my opinion. And it may be opinion but anyways, um, I hope that answers the question a little bit, John.
It does. It does. And because this is kind of where I'm going with it as well. Um, and I really, again, love your feedback on this and your perspective on this, because here it is. Let's a direct support professional's responsibility. There's expectations of, I mean, and they're very um uh high levels of responsibility in terms of sometimes literally people's lives are in your hands, whether it is through medication administration or protocols of support that you're working with somebody. um there are times when these kind of things, when we look at this slide, the depression, the anxiety, the persistent fatigue, we look at all this stuff, poor self-care and cynicism and lack of empathy, that can lead to levels of support that are diminished,
Yes.
whether it's and up to and including neglect and
Yes.
gosh forbid abuse.
Yes. Yes. I'm so tired and I'm so burned out. You know what? Here's the TV. Let's just watch TV today. You want to watch movies all day? Let's just watch movies all day. And there's no shame there, right? Like again, I'm not here to shame people into taking care of themselves so they can continue to provide quality support. That's not at all my goal. It's just, can you see that? Can you recognize that that's happening? And how can we work together to stop this from happening, right? Like, hopefully, ideally, you're not working alone if you're in a residential setting. And maybe you can start having, with your team, if you're a supervisor, how can you foster a supportive team, right? Because I'm sure that not only one person is going through burnout, right? How can I support my team member? Can we stay in ratio so that way so and so can go take 5 minutes to breathe? How
Mhm.
can we support each other? Um, Sorry, I have other thoughts going on, but I really just would love to emphasize the need for support and creating a space where people can open up and talk about these things, and not feel like they're a ticking time bomb or treated like they're a ticking time bomb. Again, being vulnerable. I have PTSD and I used to be a support group counselor. I used to do facilitate anger management classes. If I didn't have a supportive team where I can go and go, hey, I gotta be honest with you, that person triggered me a little bit. I need to take a breather. And if I didn't have that supportive team, then yeah, maybe I wouldn't be able to be as efficient. I was still providing quality service, but maybe I wasn't at 100%. So if you have a supportive team, maybe you can be 100% all the time. I don't know, but ideally, right?
And I think what I'm hearing there too, James, is that there is a responsibility not only as a supervisor, but I think this is, again, zooming out, it's the human services, the human
Yes.
services, and it's humans supporting humans, and humans are humans, and we have the same kind of things that go on as the people we support.
Yes.
Sometimes that gets lost. That gets lost with all the noise. It we talk. We could have a whole webinar on this. The level of stress that comes from compliance. You know, we have so many responsibilities as a direct support professional. The checklists, making sure you're documenting the goals and the objectives, and you got to make the team meetings and getting people on, to work. Oh, it is absolutely a job, right? A profession that has incredible demands, and anything that has those kind of demands are going to have some mental health considerations to consider. So it means supervisors better be aware of this, and so do teams. Like you said, I love that and that also, I think, talk about this just a little bit more. The stigma around mental health, how do we take that away? Because I think there are still people that might find mental health issues like depression or anxiety as negative. Not that they're wonderful things, but we can't see them in a negative way. How do we, as a team, how does a supervisor deal with that?
Well, if you don't acknowledge something, does it mean it just goes away?
Oh,
I think also, I think it's a this is a multi-layered question, right? Because there's stigma because it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be a cultural reason, right? In some cultures, they've just renamed things, th- they've renamed things to really talk about mental health symptoms, right? Like, oh, they're feeling a little nervous. They're anxious, right? And I think that if maybe renaming it for yourself and reclaiming it for yourself, right, as something else, maybe you don't want to label things with mental health things. I think that's okay. I think that's valid. I think what's important at the end of the day is recognizing the symptoms. If I am feeling persistently fatigued, if I am losing hope, if I am losing interest, you are experiencing something very serious that should be talked about, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of it. And again, I think a part of the stigma goes back to the shoulds, right? Oh, you should do this. That'll help you. Oh, you should just go exercise. You'll be fine. Did you have water today? Did you go outside? But again, if these issues are systemic and persistent, going outside and drinking water is not going to help. And I think we need to be a little bit more honest with ourselves. And continue to encourage that human language, um, and accepting people. Just accept people for who they are. Stop trying to, anyways. Spoon theory.
we could talk all day, but here,
We
Jay,
could.
you and I we gotta get through this
We
subject.
got to get through it.
Spoons and forks. I love this part of the article. Talk about the spoon theory and the fork theory. Start with the spoon theory. What the heck is this about? What is
So, spoon theory, it was coined by, I put the person's name on the slide, Christine Miseradino in 2003. She had, I don't, I should know more about the history of it, but she was a writer of a chronic illness blog, and she basically talked about this idea of like spoons and having a limited set of spoons every day. And I picture spoons as energy. So you're exchanging a spoon to go do X, Y, and Z. Um, like for example, I'm using spoons right now to do this webinar. It's taking a few spoons. Maybe I start my day at 15. It took 5 spoons to get through to this point, and then this evening I'm going to use a few more spoons to walk my dogs or make dinner. So you're exchanging your spoons, your energy for daily activities. And again, this can be influenced by other things. So like chronic stress, like Sheila is going through, and emotional fatigue, which Sheila is also experiencing. So those things can impact your number of spoons.
Okay. Does this differ then from the fork theory?
Yes. So, so I think that they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, when you set a plate set, you have forks, knives, and spoons. Um, But I think they go hand in hand. Fork theory was actually coined by Jen Rose in 2018, another blogger, and it represents more so the complexity of things.
Hmm.
So let's say, for example, Sheila was preparing her toddler to go to school. It's more than just getting the toddler to school. It is also fighting with the toddler to put on their socks, making sure that the toddler has an extra set of clothes and their bags packed, and handling the tantrum being thrown because you said they can't bring their duck umbrella. I don't know. So you're managing you're managing multiple points, right? It's a complex task.
I want the
So yeah.
Cheerios. The Cheerios. I want the Cheerios.
Exactly. Yes, so exactly that. It's the multiple aspects. And again, each of those aspects may require spoons,
Yeah.
right?
So so they're not exclusive spoon theory, fork theory, but these are ways I think we can maybe look at the stress in our lives, I guess.
100%. It's definitely a good way to look at the stress in your life without making it too medical, for lack of a better term, right? Not everything needs to be pathologized. Not everything needs to have a diagnosis. Sometimes it's just, I'm having a hard time and I'm struggling right now. My spoons are low. Can you do this? I think that it's a easier way and a gentler way to describe any frustrations that you may be having. Hey, Susan, my spoons are out. Do you mind if I just go take a walk for a second, so I can get another spoon? Like, a fun way to talk about it.
The wise guy in me says you and I should come up with the knife theory, and that's the last.
Actually,
That's the last. Is there a knife theory?
yes.
No.
There is
Okay.
a knife theory. I'm not as familiar with it, but there is it's like there I if I'm not mistaken, a knife represents kind of I think if I'm not mistaken, like the systemic things, the systemic barriers would represent the knives. I think I could be mistaken. Y'all fact check me, please.
So that'll be part two of this webinar. Down the road. Um, I think that's a great way to kind of frame things. Let's get to this. That's it, because there's hope here. There's a lot of hope. I love this. Talk about. There's the word stigma again. Talk about the rest of Sheila's story.
Yeah, so if it's okay, I'll just read it.
Yes, please.
So okay. Sheila has been thinking about the words her doctor shared since she left the office a month ago. She knew that she needed to make changes after the doctor indicated how the stress and burnout were negatively impacting her physical health. Sheila didn't know where to get started. She didn't feel comfortable going to a mental health professional because she didn't want to be labeled with any condition, and she isn't religious and doesn't have a family or close friends she could trust. She has been so focused on her children that she hasn't had the time or the emotional capacity to maintain friendships. She feels stuck, but takes a deep breath and reminds herself that she has overcome every obstacle before and will continue to do so. Sheila begins researching self care practices and treatments for burnout. She reads about journaling, meditating, and finds an article about mindfulness. Sheila finds a mindfulness exercise that can fit into her schedule before she goes to sleep. The exercise instructed her to do the following. Step 1, go to YouTube and search music to lower stress. 2, find a video that brings you a peace of mind. 3, close your eyes and listen. 4, pay attention to what you hear from the video, and as you listen, practice taking 3 deep breaths. Number 5, each time you become uneasy, take 3 more deep breaths. And number 6, relax. Sheila begins to practice this routine nightly, and over time, she notices her mornings do not feel as stressful as they did before. She is noticing that her sleep has improved, and she does not wake up as frequently throughout the night. Meditating has not solved all her problems, but it grounds her long enough to find solutions to the other areas of her life causing her stress. Now that she has this tool in her pocket, Sheila's next goal is to start nurturing a relationship outside of work so she can have a close friend to vent to when times get tough.
And Sheila didn't have to go into inpatient treatment in some kind of psychiatric facility for 4 months. She just did things that were really within reach, right? Um,
She did what worked for her.
yeah, yeah.
She
And,
looked into it.
mhm. And I think, what encouragement can you give direct support professionals who might be listening to, I mean, what should they how do you find what is interesting to you, I guess? I mean, where do you look, where do you go? I mean, I don't know. The internet seems to be just full of garbage. I don't know. Do you have recommendations where people should begin to find a place of peace?
If you were to Google 99 coping skills, you'll find like an entire list of things you can try. When I used to meet with people, I would give them that list and I would say, hey, why don't you go through the list and rate each one on a scale of 1 to 10? And so that way you have an idea of what you enjoy. I think the biggest piece of this is is Sheila's resiliency, and the way that she decides to be curious about it. She reminds herself, wait, I've overcome every obstacle that I've gone through. I'm going to continue to do so, and I'm going to be a little bit more proactive this time, and I'm going to look into what this doctor was talking about. What are some treatments to burnout? What's already out there and what's free? Right? YouTube is free. I always recommend YouTube. I believe the channel is called Calm. It's an app that they have meditations on there. If you are someone who likes to meditate, I highly recommend checking it out. But again, meditation may not work for you. Maybe you're not someone who wants to sit there and ground yourself in that way. I think everybody again is going through their own journey. Maybe yours is it looks more like walking. Maybe it looks more like again making sure that you have food, water, and a place to sleep, right? Like I'll touch more on that after, but I hope that gives a good intro to that.
Sure, sure it does. And the question I had, and we're not medical professionals necessarily, so
No.
we that's our disclaimer here for all of you listening. But when indeed should people, I guess, get to that point where they should seek professional mental health help? What are those things that should be the trigger, if you will, the thing that will put that into play for a person, whether they know it or not? Maybe it's something we're seeing in somebody. What are those things we should look for that are serious enough to get professional help?
Yeah, so I think when you are a danger to yourself or others, is kind of my go-to answer. I know that it's a little uncomfortable to say that, but I mean, if you have a friend and that friend made a comment, I just wish I wouldn't wake up tomorrow.
Mm.
That those kinds of comments are passive suicidal comments, um, and we want people to stay another day, right? So if you have fear that someone you love may be struggling with thoughts of harming themselves or others, I think directly asking the person, hey, are you having thoughts of suicide? Hey, are you having thoughts of, just directly saying those words? I, and then encouraging them to get help, whether that be through a stabilization center, an inpatient. Ideally, I would love for people to get help before that point, but I do recognize that sometimes things happen and we go to a dark place. I know I've been there, and I think I'm just gonna say that, I've been there myself. And if I didn't tell someone, and trust someone, I don't know where I'd be. But also at the same time, I needed someone to create that safe space for me to open up and talk about those things. And it's okay if you're not that person, right? Like, don't feel like you have to fit the role of I'm gonna make sure that my this person is safe. If you can't do it, just tell someone else. Tell someone that can. Um, Again, I know that's a little, it gets a little uncomfortable talking about that, but I think it needs to be said.
I think it does too, James. And coming from a social work perspective, it's also a lot of direct support professionals. They're also taught to assess the people they're working with. Many direct support professionals are working with people that have or had suicidal ideation or attempted suicide.
Hmm.
Um, and and I think again, one of these other stigmatized things in our society, which we should never stigmatize it because it's serious, it's real, and it's something certainly. One other thing I'd like to also mention again, if you're employed by a provider organization or whatever your employer is, if you happen to be somebody that is employed by an agency, oftentimes there are employee assistance programs. And please always go to your supervisor or your human resources department, because there's often resources available as well, that could be made available to you through your employer if you have that. So um, again, we could do a whole webinar on just that, on taking care of each other in and around depression and suicide and stuff. But um, let's just go to this quote, because I think it can begin to wrap up our
Yes.
conversation, which I don't want to wrap it up because it's a really good conversation. Talk about it. Well, tell us about this quote. Why is this quote here?
I've kind of been alluding to it, but I'll read it out loud. Basic self-care practices may not be enough to address these deep-rooted struggles. It is important to make self-care a proactive part of daily life, not a response to burnout or compassion fatigue. Don't wait to be exhausted before you sleep. Um, try to periodically rest. And to speak more on this, again, I said earlier, just start with a few deep breaths.
Mhm.
If you can just wake up in the morning and before you even get out of bed, before you even open your eyes, just take 3 deep breaths and just say, I got this. I can do this. Um, yeah, I don't even want to add to that. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I you nailed it. I mean, and here's the other piece of it, and I don't mean this to be negative because I think this is also a reality. A lot of direct support professionals, they do this work because it does. I don't want to use the word. There's something that gets filled.
Yeah.
It's it's very hard to describe, but I think everybody that's listening knows what I'm talking about. When you enter, like, say you're working a group home and you've been away for a week or something, and you go into that group home and the people that you support see you, it's like you're a rock star. There's such a, whether it's healthy or not, there's such an incredible fulfillment that comes right with supporting people with, particularly with disabilities. We've got to be careful because that's not the reason we do this. It shouldn't be the reason we do this. It's kind of an added extra benefit, if you will. But if we rely on that, it's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
And I think we got to always keep our role in 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 mind. And that doesn't mean we're not going to get depressed and all the burnt out stuff we talked about and compassion fatigue. But our role is not to come to work to be fulfilled by people.
Right.
And I think there are direct support professionals that's a driver. That can be dangerous. Do you want to speak to that just for a second at all?
Yes, and I agree with you. I think it's really important to have boundaries. Right? I think that we're humans and we're going to, if you love the job, you're going to love the people too, right? I think that's normal. We're humans. I think the professional thing to do is to recognize those feelings and to recognize when the line between personal and professional begin to get blurred, and figure out what you need to do to reconcile that and to prevent any issues happening. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I gotta plug a little bit the NADSP eBadge Academy, which is our national credentialing uh, uh, program, which James is an integral part of. Um, we have this one badge, right, called the self care badge.
Mhm.
Talk about the utilization of the self care badge, and can we plug that a little bit, James? Talk about that just for a couple seconds before we have to end this
Oh, I
chat.
have one more slide, John.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I'm sorry.
You're okay. You're okay.
Sorry, sorry.
Um, but I think that the self-care badge and talking about it kind of goes directly into this. I think it's really funny because a lot of the responses we get for self-care is meditation and like meditating, and I'm not denying anybody that they're meditating. But I would like for us to dig a little deeper than just, oh, my self-care, I meditate.
Yeah.
I journal. Those are self-care practices, but how can you make self-care and caring for yourself a part of your daily life? Um, I really love mindfulness. I love the topic of mindfulness. It's being present without judgment,
Mhm.
right? Which how often does that happen? I mean, I'm a Virgo. I judge everything. Um, just kidding. But yeah, like how often are you present and just acknowledging things that are going on. Last night I was sitting on my porch and I sit on my porch often and I realized that I was so caught up in my own thoughts. I didn't even hear the birds singing,
Ah,
right? I was not being very mindful. But then once I became aware, I was like, okay, I need to practice what I preach, right? I need to take a minute and I need to listen to my surroundings, right? That's what meditation is at the end of the day. It's just listening to your surroundings, recognizing the thoughts that are coming to your mind, thanking them for coming, and then acknowledging what they're asking you to do, right? I think we can make mindfulness habitual, right? You can practice mindfulness while you do the dishes, right? While you're doing the dishes, even if you are not very happy about doing the dishes, you can look at that dish and you can say to yourself, wow, I'm really grateful for this dish. And I'm really grateful that I have this in the sink because it meant that I ate. This dish fed me this meal, and you can reflect on the beautiful meal that you enjoyed on that plate or whatever, and appreciate it. Practice gratitude. That's also another part of mindfulness. I have some questions in the article that I list off as like mindfulness journal prompts. But essentially, in my opinion, again, beyond the presence without judgment, but it's also just checking in with yourself. We've been sitting here for about an hour. I hope that after this, I encourage all of you to check in with yourself. Have you had water today? Do you need to eat a granola bar or something? Do you need to use the restroom? How often do we go throughout the day saying, I just got to finish this thing and then I'll go to the bathroom? No, take a
yep.
minute, go to the bathroom, come back. You'll do the work even better. Take a second, go drink something, right? And I think going back to just Sheila's story, right? And this whole message that I hope that everybody has received, you are not going to recover from burnout if it is systemic, right? But you can ground yourself long enough to find a solution to some of the issues that you're going through, right? If you are experiencing insecurity in any aspect of your life, how can you meet your needs? Start there, right? If you can't self-care to the point of really feeling fine and okay, then self-care to the point of figuring it out and finding a solution, right? Sheila developed a new goal. Develop goals for yourself that involve self-care. I'm gonna make a friend this year. I'm gonna make sure I make a date with my friend to go to a botanical garden or something, or just something to give yourself something to look forward to. Um, uh, yeah, and suddenly all thoughts are leaving my brain. But back to you, John.
I think finally, and then this has been such a great conversation. I think never, ever, ever be afraid to ask for help. It's
Thank you.
absolutely so important. And it's hard, I think, for a lot of people. I think people are proud and they don't feel as though they're worthy of it, whatever it might be. Everybody is worthy of help. And I think Nine times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, most human beings, they really want to help their fellow human being, and they don't want to see anybody in any kind of pain, whatever that might look like or be. Um, oh man, James, this has been great. It's really been great. And hold on, before we plug the NADSP, I just want to personally thank you for this hour because it's I feel better. I feel better just talking about this stuff and putting it out there in the open that, you know what, we got to fill our buckets, whatever you want to call it, fill our buckets, find our piece, do the dishes and thank the dish, whatever. I love that. I'm going to do that tonight. But all kidding aside, that can really make a day better. And I think you've made certainly my day better. I bet you've made a lot of people's days better. And thank you. Thank you for your article and for this conversation. So, friends that are still on listening to us, thank you for joining in this Let's Talk. We've got to put a plug. Our national conference, the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals annual conference, will be happening in September of 2025 in beautiful, beautiful Buffalo, New York. We are looking for something very interesting this year. It's the first time we're doing it, right, James? I don't. You want to talk about it, James? What we're doing here?
Sure. I believe this is for the Innovative Fair. So you have any ideas that you believe are innovative? I really encourage you all to apply, whether that be, maybe there's an activity that you designed and you made up to better support the people. Please apply. We want to hear it.
Yeah. And this is for direct support professionals, very specific to them. We love clinicians and nurses and all the other good people in our field, but this is specifically for direct support professionals to show off some of the good stuff that they've come up with. Because over the years, I've seen direct support professionals, the ideas they've had. For example, just getting somebody that really hates to eat certain kinds of foods, ways in which to help them palate foods and get them to eat foods that they have to eat, whatever that might look like, in a non-coercive, in a fun way. I've seen DSPs come up with wonderful, getting people to take a shower. Sometimes people we support don't want to take a shower for whatever reason, don't want to do bath time. Finding shampoo that smells good. Little things like that can absolutely be innovations, and we want to hear about what those things are. And so reach out to us if you want more information on that. You can go to our website. But also, that's our conference. There it is. We're going to have a pre-conference on the 8th, and then our full conference the 9th and the 10th, with tons of workshops and keynote speakers and food and Buffalo. Well, the Buffalo won't be roaming, but I hope not. My goodness, but we're going to be in Buffalo. If you want to know more about it, I think there's a QR code there. How does that work, James? Because I don't understand the QR codes. How do
You could pick your phone up and take a picture of it, and it should pop up, ideally, if it works that way. If it doesn't, I believe you can go to our website, nadsp.org, and it should be on our homepage. Right now, we have early bird pricing, just so you all know as well. I believe that's scheduled to end June 15th.
Thank you. So just if you have any questions, please let us know. I'm going to give you our address in just 2 seconds. As always, I always like to give thanks and incredible appreciation to Angie and Chanel, both of whom are the folks that continue the International Journal's publication. And we always give a shout out to the great Dave Hingsberger, who has since passed. A couple of years ago, he left us, but he's still with us with the incredible legacy of the International Journal that he and Angie and Chanel created over a decade ago. Thank you for your continued efforts. And if you have any questions, please give me a shout. jraffaele@nadsp.org. Anything about the conference or anything about NADSP, but certainly if you want to get James's article, and any questions for James, you can direct them to me. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you to our interpreters, Becky and Jamie. Appreciate you very much, our ASL interpreters, who were able to follow James and I, which is just remarkable, isn't it, James?
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Thank you all. And James, lastly, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. I'm so glad you're here in this world.
Thank you for everybody for being here, and thank you, John, for having me.
Got it. Bye, buddy.